This is just a quick story about an incident that happened to me yesterday at my local neighborhood gun store. I had basically just finished shooting, and as I always do after I shoot at the range, I always walk over to the other side where they sell guns, and I buy guns or look at new models or look at used guns. So anyway, while I was in there, I asked if the owner was there, who I normally chat with, and they said he wasn't there. So there was two relatively new workers behind the counter. One I've seen before, I believe he's an ex-Marine, and the other guy was new, and I'd say in his early 20s. And the new guy was filling out a gun purchase for a person who was in the counter, waiting there. So I was looking at used guns all the way to the right of the counter, and I heard this person sounded a little bit drunk to me, quite frankly, the guy that was buying a gun. And like I said, the person that was selling the gun was a young guy and a new worker. So long story short, after about 10 minutes, they did a NICS check on the guy, and it came back as rejected. And that's when the problems then started. The guy said, "Do it again." And the kid, rightly so, said, "No, we don't do it again. Once it's rejected, that's it." And he goes, "Why is it rejected?" And, the kid gave him the answer and all this, and blah, blah, blah. Long story short, the guy started banging on the counter. And at that point, I went into, I guess you'd call it red alert. And all I did was I got a little closer, and this was the particular gun I was carrying, my Rock Island 9mm. I did a video about a week or so ago on the grip change on this. And, I was shooting it, trying to get used to the grips and all that, as I do, anytime I do something new on a gun. And anyway, like I said, it sort of put me on alert listening to this guy. And the guy at that point made a little bit of a threat. And as he did that, an elderly couple came into the store, and I guess they were, going to, look for a gun. And I saw them get startled by this guy yelling, and they turned around and went out. So two things. Being a business person, I was unhappy that the owner of the store lost a potential sale. And two, I didn't like to see this elderly couple frightened by this moron that was yelling at the counter. So at that point, all I did was a mild interjection. I said, "Buddy, you were turned down. Why don't you just leave it alone?" And at that, he told me to go blank myself and mind my own business. And I said, "You're absolutely right. It's none of my business." I says, "But however, I am going to make it my business." And I said, "I think you should leave." And at that point, the other guy, the worker who I said was an ex-Marine guy, he came up and he's like, "Listen, sir, you were turned down. You're not getting the gun." And at that point is when the guy said, "Listen, I'm getting this gun one way or another." And at that point, me and the Marine, we didn't draw our pistols, but we had them. I always carry this cocked and locked. I put my hand on it, and it would have been drawn in a nanosecond. And the guy at the store, he said, "Listen," I could tell he was nervous, and he's like, "Just please leave, sir. We don't want this to escalate." And again, the guy made a lot of curses and verbal threats. And unfortunately, I've been in situations like this or similar many times in my life, and I just don't get that nervous anymore. And I just, again, butted in. I guess I shouldn't have, but I said, "Sir, you're not getting the gun one way or another, okay?" I says, "It sounds like you just made a threat. You just scared away an old couple. You're making an ass out of yourself. Stop with the language and just go, try another day, and why don't you live the rest of your life?" I says, "Because if you keep going on the way you're doing, this is not going to end well for you. I can probably guarantee that." And at that point, I noticed the guy had a different change of demeanor. And again, I didn't really make a threat. I just told him what I suspect might happen. And I saw like his eyes, he got like that little, I don't know, that fear look. I don't know what it is. I've seen it, and I'm used to seeing it, and it's happened. And that's it. But I said to myself, as the guy left and the other guys, I said, you guys should have more of a signal that because it's a big store, a huge counter. It's like 75 feet. And I said, you should have a signal when you have a problem that, you know, other people, because, you know, there were other workers from the range. You could have a button that you push and other people could come, you know, to your aid. I said, because, you know, if I wasn't here, I don't know what you guys would have done. Again, they're both young guys, early 20s. And I guess maybe they haven't had this kind of situation before. And people react differently, and most people sort of clam up and get very apologetic. And again, I'm not trying to be confrontational with someone because it wasn't my business. But, you know, I could have seen where this was going when the guy said, I'm getting this gun one way or another, like he was going to steal it, you know, threaten. He did have his hand in his pants pocket. I could tell there wasn't a gun, but he might have had his hand on a knife or something like that. And again, from being around a lot of drunk people for having owned bars and nightclubs and whatnot, I know when someone's incapacitated mentally. So that's just pretty much what happened. You know, no police called, no shots fired, nothing like that. But it could have escalated, and you know, it just makes me think. You know, like what a dummy! Like, wouldn't that be the last person in the last place in the world that you'd want to rob? You know, a gun store, when you have people that probably are pretty proficient with firearms and shooting. Probably the customers, like myself, are pretty well versed in self-defense and firearms and all things of that manner. It just seems like a bad choice, and luckily, it had a happy ending, and the guy, nothing bad happened to him or the workers there or anybody else. So, anyway, just a little food for thought. You know, you gotta always be on alert. You know, because to me, a gun store is probably one of the safest places to be. Except for, idiots that don't know how to handle firearms and, and accidentally or whatever, muzzle you with the firearm. That's happened. But, it seems to me like not a place where robberies go off. But I was watching a video the other day on another channel, the DC channel, and this what made me think about, this incident that happened. And I figured I'd do a video on it. So anyway, that's it. Just be careful out there, always be aware of your surroundings. And if you can help out in a situation, I think you should. Other people will say, you should mind your own business. You're not law enforcement or anything like that. But I don't know. As a member of the human race, if I see someone having a problem, I always interject myself. So hopefully that doesn't bite me in the blank one of these days. But that's it. All right. Just wanted to share that quick story with you guys. Take care.